Good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. And this morning we're asking the Black Stars coach. We know it is Milovan Rajevac. How easy can he drive the team to win the two major tournaments that the FA expects him to be able to, and in the process win for himself a bonus totaling $600,000? Crime and security. There have been daylight robberies, and it appears it may be on the rise, at least in Accra, with a number of horrific incidents in less than 1 week. Yes, of course, the police appear to be on the beat. We'll tell you more about those. The MMDCE nominations at long last, but we need to interrogate the process, the reactions leading to burning of party offices, among other things, and the questioning of only 38 women in the entire process. Women are still the majority in Ghana's population. How about the case of Sal? They appear not to still have a DCE after having been denied an MP. Is there hope that citizens will eventually vote for their DCEs anytime soon? So these are the issues that engage our attention this morning, starting with sports. But let's get to deal with my take, and I title Samson's Take, Corruption and Side Chicks Law. Corruption and Side Chicks Law. Today, two issues get my attention. I have reason to believe citizens may not be as interested in fighting corruption, regardless the noise we make denouncing it in the media. I observe also that people who love side chicks may not want them at their funeral. I shared on my social media handle an advertisement by the Office of Special Prosecutor, sharing its contact details, including a toll-free line for people to report corruption. The OSP said, quote, if we stand for nothing, we pay for everything. Our future is not for sale. Let's report corruption, unquote. Whatever people's frustration and mistrust, I did not expect only less than 1% of those commenting to commend the move. About the 99% plus simply do not trust the system and don't want to have anything to do with it. Why are people not ready to give the OSP the benefit of the doubt and simply do their part by reporting acts of corruption so they may get some factual basis to do their criticism, particularly if this does not yield any good results? I think myself a campaigner, having done a lot of anti-corruption education. Only a handful have used the 2006 Whistleblowers Law, spoken about its defects, but campaigned for aggressive public education to get people to use it and for the fund it commands to be set up so that people can enjoy the 10% reward on what they blow the whistle on, and the state protection if their cover is blown, and against all forms of victimization they may suffer at the workplace. The passage of the Witness Protection Law was the icing on the cake. Yet people who know are not using these legal tools to help fight corruption. So here is my charge. Report corruption to info@osp.gov.gh or corruptionreport@osp.gov.gh or call 0800 00 700, which becomes operational soon. The state is doing its Article 35H duty in taking, quote, steps to eradicate corruption and abuse of power, unquote. Just play your part as the Constitution commands in Article 41 to be your duty as a citizen. Many have been excited that the proposed interstate succession law maintains the existing position denying, quote, baby mamas, unquote, or a woman who has a child with a man without being married to him any benefit from his property if the man dies without making a will. We easily forget that it is not all such women who are bad or desire such a situation, as the majority are deceived or forced to live with a man without marriage. Gender advocates, groups and individuals, powerhouses like Sheila Menka Premo have tried without success, especially through the spousal property bill, for Ghana to recognize cohabitation so such women do not continue to be disadvantaged and cheated where they deserve some portion of the property of the man. She and her team managed to get women a great deal in the new land law, which where property acquired during marriage is presumed to be jointly owned by husband and wife and cannot be disposed of by one spouse unless with consent of the other spouse, and unless a contrary intention is expressed in writing that that property belongs to only one of them. Sheila explained on the Law Show Sunday afternoon the need to examine the current law where only the child born out of marriage benefits. The best way to avoid the state having to distribute your property when you die is to make a will. So, just make a will. A most exciting aspect of the new law to replace the 36-year-old one is that families who try to eject particularly widows from homes, take away cars, keys to cars, and several other property, stand to go to jail for 1 to 2 years or be made to pay hefty fines or make compensation in addition to that. That is my take. We'll be right back to engage my guests on the appointments of the Black Stars coach as well as the other matters we have to discuss this morning.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atto. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
Played 2 games, won 1 and lost 1, which makes our desire to go to the Mundial very, very challenging. But we believe that with the right strategy, with the right planning, with the right personnel, both technical and playing body, our Black Stars will be able to hit the target of envy and qualify us to the Mundial. When we knew that Coach Milovan was available we're very sure that he is the right man for us. And from the work of the subcommittee, from the work of the council, and our engagement with the Ministry of Youth and Sports, we are happy that today Milovan Rajvac is here with us. He has all the experience, he's seen it before, he has been there. And we believe that with the right levels of support from the Football Association and from your good selves, he, together with the rest of the technical team, will be able to deliver exactly what we want.
Ući u ove kvalifikacije, jer biti na svjetskom prvenstvu zna samo onaj ko je bio. To je najveći korak i za sve nas.
When you go to the World Cup, you realize this is the biggest achievement and this is the best about football. And when I said in the beginning of the last campaign that we all have to work together, GFA, technical team, players, media and supporters. Last time we did it because we supported each other and we did it together, all of us. I believe we can try this time if we believe that we can achieve it and put all our resources for the same goal. Everything is possible and I strongly believe we can deliver.
Right. Let's welcome our guest for this first segment of Newsfile this morning, and joining us via phone, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, former chairman, Ghana Football Association, here in the studio, Gary Al Smith with Joy Sports, and joining us also is Kojo Adai Mensah, former columnist, Kotoko Express, and sports analyst. We have Al-Hassan Suhini here in the studio, who will help us to do the other, discussions we have. But he has an interest in football, so he'll tell us one thing or two about it. Now, let me begin with Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. Thank you very much this morning for joining us on Newsfile, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So we understand that whilst you were ambassador, you were the first to have, directed our path to Milovan. What do you say about his return at this point and the job that has been handed him?
I think I will start by, going through memory lane a bit so that listeners can really follow what is happening. Now, before Milovan came, we went through a series of problems with coaching. And I'm talking about our own coaches here. Now, when we entered the World Cup competition, we had a coach by name Barreto, who I think later became Kotoko coach recently. Now, we had a couple of matches with him. He was in charge of a few matches with the Black Stars. The last was a match we had with Cape Verde, which we won at Kumasi. I think it was 2-0 or so. That was on the 19th June 2004. Now, after that, Barreto left us unceremonious. So we quickly have to get in a gentleman by the name Coach Sam Adi as a stopgap coach. Sam made it plain to me that he will handle only one match, and that match will be a match we have with Congo DR in those days. Now, luckily, it was a draw game. Now, we kept on moving gradually, and we then realized that we needed a coach immediately who would be able to handle the boys. When we brought in a coach by name Dukovic, we had quite an interesting interview with him. I remember myself, Fred Papo, and Dr. Kofi Amwa. We had a thorough discussion with him. We realized he's quite a good person. So we picked him. Now, Djokovic, what we noticed was that he was quite a tough guy, even though he had a lot of bash from the Ghanaian media. I must say that is very important. Now, despite the bashing, he went on and he was able to get us to win almost all the remaining matches that we have. And I remember a match that we played in Kumasi again with Barreto as the coach, was Congo DR, once again 1-1 draw. And then we had a match with South Africa. The match with South Africa was quite an interesting match because until that time, we have never been able to win a match when we were playing South Africa. Now, we were able to defeat South Africa 3-0, and then we moved on. Now, I remember very well, after having qualified for the World Cup under Djokovic, he left the country. He left the country because I think his contract had ended. By then, I was then Ghana ambassador to Serbia and Montenegro. And then I had a call, I remember, from the then acting FA chairman, Mr. Kwesinya Ntechi, and Fred Papo. These are two gentlemen I have worked with before. Then they asked if I can get them a coach from Serbia. And it was quite interesting. I immediately got in touch with one football child from Serbia, FA, and he recommended a gentleman who came to stay in my office and brought in, within a short time, 3 gentlemen. And I remember Milovan was one of them. I had a thorough interview with him, myself and my secretary then. And we decided, well, he is quite a good person, so we recommended him to the FA. Now, the FA also had an interview with him in Amsterdam with 2 other German coaches, one who were all interested in the position. One was Volker Finker, and the other one was Ralf Zund. And the FA decided to pick Milovan. Now, Milovan came down to Ghana, and also for the second time in our history, he was able to qualify us for the World Cup. So I think this is what I'll say so far.
Yeah. That's great to know. But just you know, a lighter side. I was wondering, when you reached out to him, did you have to speak to him in English?
Oh no, there was an interpreter there.
All right. So he always has his interpreter around him. Yeah.
That was the point that really disturbed me a bit. But you know, since the interpreter was, it wasn't this gentleman who is with him now.
All right.
The interpreter there in the what do you call it? In the embassy, who was very good, and he was quite expensive.
Okay. Now he returns in similar circumstances as his first time in 2008. He came, and his very first competitive game was the 2010 World Cup qualifier that we had with Libya. 1-0. Then the Black Stars bounced back in the next qualifier with Lesotho, trashing them 3-0. Now, he's coming at a time when his first competitive game is going to be a World Cup qualifier against Zimbabwe in Cape Coast. What do you make of the circumstances, and do you think that we stand a chance? Should we be as hopeful as we are now?
To me personally, I think I normally don't like second coming, honestly, because it always comes with a problem. However, he's quite a mature person. Maybe he has weighed all the various issues concerning. He feels he can handle the board. But I think one thing that I personally would like to say about this coach is that when he was here, I was in his stadium, so I really can't say much how he got on. But I know he got on very well with the Kwesi Nantwich and his team. Now, he's somebody who is very strong, very, very strong. You can't easily toss him around. I remember when Barreto was around and we had we were in Greece, you know, some few years back, and Sule Muntari, my good friend, misbehaved, and I was informed we have to sack him from camp. I remember very well. And when we came back, President Kufuor called me, we had a chat. President Kufuor is somebody who never interfered before that, so I must say that. He called me and we had a chat. He said, look, now, this Sule Muntari matter, there's a whole delegation from Konomo coming to see me, so don't try to bring my popularity in that down in that area. So we all laughed over it. So yes, Sule was funny for a couple of days. I insisted, I think weeks before we got him back on board. Now this same Sule, who is my very good friend, did a similar thing when Miloba was in charge of the club. And believe it or not, he nearly sacked me. Now he did. We got bleeds from a lot of people, I think particularly from the football fraternity. He decided to give me a try. And mind you, he nearly didn't send Sinapia to the World Cup. So you can see that this is a 12 character. Now, one thing I have, or I feel the man has an unfinished job in this country.
He says so himself.
Oh, he said it himself.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting then. Because, you know, he felt strongly that Ghana really put him on the world map. And he has something still to offer the country. I don't think he's somebody who really needs that much money. For one simple reason that he had chains of hotels. I'm quite aware of that. If there are no more, then I can't tell. So you see him as somebody whose football is his passion, and particularly his attachment to Ghana. You know, is something.
He actually believes that, but for our nemesis, that guy, we would have qualified for, we would have won the World Cup.
Oh yeah, we got us that close. I remember when we defeated, was it the Czech Republic or whatever? I've forgotten now. I had numerous calls of congratulations from various ambassadors. I remember. You know, we came that close. And if he was able to do that, you know, he's somebody that I think we have to look at carefully.
Right.
But one thing I think I have to caution here, we've always had problems with the media when coaches or new coaches have been employed. And I think the reason being that some of the media people have got interest in these various positions or this position. See, and they come out with all sort of negative comments, and then this disturbs these people greatly. For instance, can you believe when Dukovic was handling, he had a call from somebody. Why? I think Dukovic was then in Germany or so. He had a call that his belongings have been thrown out of his bungalow and whatnot, and the call went to the wife as well. So the wife was disturbed very much about that. I mean, I don't know why somebody should do such a thing. And if he had not been that solid, that could have disturbed him greatly. So I think we have to watch also. I'm not saying the media should be cut. No, I'm somebody who believes the media should be allowed to do exactly what it's there for. However, I believe strongly that their comments or attacks should be very objective.
My final question to you will be, what exactly is the benefit we get as a country through football? And I want you to summarize that for us very briefly. Because we have spent over $4 million on head coaches since Milo first left us.
No, but this is an interesting question. So, we have won African Cup of Nations 4 times. And on all these occasions, these matches were won under Ghanaian coaches. Very interesting, under Ghanaian coach. Now, you ask yourself why. And I believe strongly the present coaches we have are not that strong. They are not that strong at all. Now, we've had a generation of coaches with high integrity, discipline, coaches who fear no one. I'll mention a few names. Sike Jampi, 1. Ben Kofi, 2. Osam Dodo, 3. Jones Atukwefio, and maybe some Ade. These are people you can't tell them around. No one can tell them, put in this guy or remove this guy. But what is happening now, you ask yourself what has gone wrong.
Milo says that's exactly who he is and that's what he will do because that is his job. But my question is, he's going to get $30,000 a month and he's going to get a signing fee. He's got a signing fee of $100,000. He's been promised $600,000 if he qualifies Ghana. If once Ghana wins AFCON 2022 and qualifies Ghana for the World Cup 2022 in Qatar as well, what do we get from all this, expenditure into soccer?
Oh, that's interesting. Look, this country definitely, I would say, during the time of Nkrumah, I was a teenager then. But to bring the map of Ghana on the world stage, 2 things. Kwame Nkrumah and his African policy. And then secondly, football. Football. Now, we might not have realized the tons of money that we have made through football now. But I think it's there. You follow me? Now, football really is what really brought us to the World Cup. I mean, when Asamoah Gyan was in his heyday, I mean, anywhere you go to, they say that you are Ghana, they mention his name first to you. You'll be surprised, leaving all the politicians aside. But you ask yourself, what has really football done for this country? Football has done a lot for the nation Ghana. And I don't believe at all that the amount that you mentioned, 4 million is no money. I would have said more than that should be spent on that, on football. And then we shall be able to get all the dividends that private might have been put in. Now, all right. At the moment, let me end with this. At the moment, the world is playing full stadium. the whole of Europe. Look at the number of people that come to our matches. It's 25%. You follow me? And this is money being wasted.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think football means a lot to this country. It brings in a lot of income. And also, football, I can assure you, can bring down the government.
Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, former chairman, Ghana Football Association. And now let me get to my friends, Gary Al Smith and Kojo Ade Mensah, for making the time. I thank you very much for making the time. And last week, I'm starting with you, Kojo. And last week, when you and Gary, more particularly, sat here and gave some suggestions. You were very particular. You stress on the need to invest in local coaches and train them. Now, listening to the press conference yesterday, I discovered that the FA president was deliberate and realized that it was important to begin the conference by stating that they are making an investment in training local coaches. Why do you think he had to start on that note? And I felt that, they were taking notes when you guys were speaking.
It felt that way too, actually. Yeah. It really felt that way. I think he started on that note primarily to address the president's concern. And I think last week I did indicate that the president came into power with the mantra that he believed in Ghana and he believed in Ghanaians. So once they were departing from that mantra, I think it was important for him to set the stage to educate Ghanaians and inform Ghanaians that they had given local coaches opportunities at the junior level, and all appointments up to the assistant were local coaches, so to speak. So I think he was addressing Gary and I and Carl and addressing the president's mantra as well. It is still disappointing that at the helm of affairs is not a Ghanaian. I'm still quite disappointed with that. But it's now water under the bridge, and we need to move on. I'm just hoping that Milo will probably be the last foreign coach that we get. And I'd like to use this opportunity again to talk to our local coaches, honestly, especially those who are still playing, if they harbor any ambitions of being coaches and not make it an afterthought, that while they are playing and while they are earning good money, they spend some of that good money on doing their coaching badges in UEFA. I think last week, Gary stressed the point that, with all due respect, that it looks like the CAF licensing program is not as rigid and as solid as the UEFA one. CAF need to upgrade, but our guys should go and try and get the UEFA. The Pro is the ultimate, but even if they have UEFA A's, I think it will be good enough to position them to take advantage when the opportunity arises. So while the FA boss has appointed a Serbian, which is disappointing to me, we'll have no choice than to support the decision and hope that all those local coaches who have been given opportunities at the junior levels, the Amor Walkers, the Tankos, the name them, even Maxwell, the Otoados, everybody, and the Didi Dramanis, they all take full advantage of the situation so that when Milo's time is up, they will all be ready and strong enough. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo has alluded to that, and we have anecdotal evidence that suggests that our current local coaches are not as strong as the Joneses, the Sam Dodus, the Samades, the Benkofis, who will stand their ground and actually kick you out from the dressing room if you come there to come and make any suggestions, and be convinced within themselves that their decisions are right and can take us where we really want to be.
Great. Now, Gary, do you think that the plan as he outlined is sufficient to get us to where Kojo is suggesting, that by the time Milo is exiting, we will stop talking and looking beyond the shores of Ghana?
Last week, one of the things I ended with was the fact that Milo was going to come because, by that time we knew that it was a done deal. My express hope was that by the time he's done, we are, as a nation, the sentiment is that we are looking at 5 Ghanaians, 6, 7 Ghanaians, and we are bickering and fighting, as to which of them is the best one. We are sitting on Newsfile and saying, Samson versus Sheikh versus, these Ghanaians. That is what we are looking at. What the GFA administration have done is the journey in the right direction. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo has alluded not once, not twice, to strength. Yesterday, when we did the live press conference in the after show, we called Prince Tego. Prince Tego played under Milovan Rahimat.
Right.
He had said 2 weeks before to Nathaniel Ato on the Sports Link that he would prefer a Serbian. So we called him and said, now you have a Serbian. And he said, look, as I said 2 weeks ago, these guys, he said, he basically used the same words Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo used. When they say yes is yes. I have tried myself to, find out why. And I have distilled it to the revolutionary mindset around the Baltic region. They were always fighting for about 20, 25, 30 years. If you look at even Kosovo, Montenegro, all those countries in that region, they have a huge nationalistic pride about them. And like we say, Germans are mechanical and very precise. One of the things they say about Serbians, about Eastern Europeans, which, especially for those who travel to London and all that, is their hard-working mentality and their uprightness and how straight they are. I mean, if they are crooked, they are crooked. Anyway, that's what they say. But that's the thing you see about the Serbians, that strength. Wherever it is that it comes from, what I would say is that, like in your profession, like in my profession, why couldn't the names that Mr. Kojada Mensah and Nyaho Tamaklo mentioned be pushed around? They couldn't be pushed around because they had been there and done that. Shall we begin? Sam Ade, Osam Dodu, and others. Osam Dodu was a beneficiary of the whole Kwame Nkrumah CKJ Mfi thing, where they were flown around the world, not even Africa, to give them the best knowledge from the best people in the world. The corollary to any other public service institution is having taken somebody on a national service scheme, taking him to the US, the UK, when he comes to Ghana and you want to push him around, he's going to take a pen and paper and resign. But if you look, including Sir Jones Atukwefio and others, our current breed of coaches don't have that gravitas, that knowledge base. And so a lot of them don't even know their worth. Take them to one UEFA license A pro course. Currently, those who are doing those courses are Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos, Oliver Kahn. When they have gone for that rigorous session and come back, and you put them in charge of RTU, or Kwabibrim United, or Kwawu United, and some board chairman in that room is coming to say, someone far player away and Shema, way. You just say, do you know who I have done courses with? You understand what I'm saying?
And I heard you explain something rather interesting about that kind of training, that even if you missed one of the training sessions, you are out of the entire session and you have to pay afresh. And it's expensive to start all over again.
Yes.
That's part of the discipline.
So if the GFA should take you, so as we speak, Asante Kotoko have taken a few of their staff. They have an exchange program with Southampton. If Asante Kotoko have paid for you to go on that exchange program, and your CEO at Kotoko or your board member at Kotoko hears that on one of the days you didn't go because you overslept or you missed the train, and that they have to pay again, for that course, or the GFA in the, what you said yesterday, Keto Kreko said they are taking 15 local coaches for some of these seminars. And then we hear in the media that Samson Ladi, as for you, when you went to oversleep, or you missed the train, or they said 3 o'clock and you appeared at 3:30. Who is going to take you seriously again? So that is, for me, the journey on which they are that I am very appreciative of. Whether they will see it through is another matter, but clearly others have done it. Let me just finish by saying, for a long time, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo said at the time we met South Africa at the point, we are not beating them, and then we started beating them. Indeed, it is instructive to note that when we started beating South Africa from that 2005 time, we beat them and beat them and beat them and beat them until very recently. Now guess what? South Africa have beaten us back to back in men and women's football. Leading our national team coach, Mercy Tego, to use the perhaps politically incorrect expression that South Africa used to be our girlfriends, we used to use them anyhow. That's what she said. Obviously the language could be a bit more refined, but you get the point of what she's saying. Why? South Africa have decided as a country. Recently, they have hired a new coach. They gave him a 5-year contract. That is unheard of in South Africa. And they have told him, we are not going to interfere with your work. Build us a team to qualify for the next African, not even this one,
right,
because that one is done, for the next African Cup. And then we are not even going to pressure you to win the 2023. We want you to also qualify us for the next World Cup.
Interesting.
You know, so if we are willing to do that, then, yeah.
Yeah, and Kojo, last week you were stressing on this thing also about plan. You know, so how does the plan fit in? I'm looking at it now. I don't follow soccer that much.
For now, Samson.
Yeah,
clearly.
I wanted to tie it in this way. I was saying I don't follow sports that much because I need you to know I don't know anything about this area. In the course of the period, I have been following you guys and Gary and his team religiously to be sure that I can prepare well for this discussion. Now, when you called the Kingston,
yes,
he said his choice of Milo is because he's a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
But you guys, last week, did you not agree that it is not exactly about the coach? How do you tie in the question of planning and everything with it being about a disciplinarian?
You know, by the time, and I think Gary just alluded to it, by the time you go through that UEFA course, by the time you go through that process, you will by default become a disciplinarian. They imbibe it in you. You know, yes, there are some who have a natural, disposition, and some people have a natural disposition of not being that strict or that being that much of a disciplinarian. But there are certain things that they will not take lightly, just out of their training. And sometimes I'm coming back to your question about the planning. Clearly, currently, what we have is a very short-term plan. The FA's announcement indicates that Milo has been given a 1-year contract.
Right.
1-year contract to, one, qualify us for the World Cup, which I don't think should be a priority, personally. 2, win the AFCON, which for me should be our number 1 priority. If he does that, then they will give him another year or 2 to qualify us for the next AFCON and for the next World Cup. It still doesn't reach a 5-year period. If anything less than a 5-year period to give time, patience to build is for me a short-term measure. So we still haven't gotten into our 5-year mode. Last week I indicated that we could always go pick up Ben Kofi's 5-year plan, pick up Nyantich's 5-year plan, and see what we can do with it and follow it through, not cut short along the way. So the whole planning thing is both the coaches, it's getting strict people, and I think even the players, with all due respect, but even the players, if they come out and the coach standing there is a UEFA A, is a UEFA Pro, so he has been to the same course as Steven Gerrard, as Pep Guardiola, as Jurgen Klopp. Name them. They all have a pro, and your coach also has a pro. They would actually even give you some level of respect. I mean, you are a lawyer. Definitely, you will respect a Supreme Court judge much more than somebody who is in the lower court, just because they've gone through the ranks and gone through the years. So it's very important that we sit back, not rush this. Be it as it may, I think the FA are bent on qualifying for Russia and for the next World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah, so the question I'm asking, we are throwing all this money at him and promising to give him more and all of that. When the issue is not exactly about the coach, right? I am hearing you guys make analysis, and on Joy Sports, on my Joy Online, I'm reading all about the comparisons with players before, at the time he came, and the players now not being the same thing.
Quality.
Yeah, same quality.
When it comes to the quality argument, I don't kind of share it 100%, because he did take quite an inexperienced team to the 2010 AFCON final. It a fairly inexperienced team, albeit coming from a World Cup triumph at the junior level. So their confidence was high and they had belief in themselves. But I don't think I buy the quality argument 100%. Yes, it's true. I don't think our current squad are the level the Asians and Muntaris and Apias were. But look, we have some decent players as well. We have the Kuduses, we have Partey, we have Amate, we have Schlop. I mean, it's quite a decent team out there. It's not a total disaster, and we can do something with them. But right. I think the time frame is just too short. It's way too short. I wish Milo the best, and obviously I wish we qualify for the World Cup because, as Dr. Nyaho Tamako said, once you get there, your name is there on the world stage, and the repercussions are a lot. You know, something you travel, sometimes you get to immigration, they just look at your passport, it's Ghana, and they say, oh, Ghana, World Cup, well done. Then you just pass through, you know. So sometimes we like to check the benefits based on hardcore figures, you know, how much is the prize money at the AFCON, how much have we thrown at them, what's the benefit? The benefit goes beyond money, and it goes even beyond football. Right. But I think our anxiety and our passion and desire to at all costs qualify for this particular World Cup is a bit too much. I think we should focus on the AFCON and then focus on the next World Cup and then try get to the semi-final or the final.
Do I get a sense that you are not that hopeful? Do I get a sense that you are not that hopeful immediately for the success that we expect coach to take us to?
Stu Samson.
Yes, I'm asking that in 30 seconds. Tell me, do I get the sense that you are not that hopeful as regards the immediate, success that we expect of Milo?
I am very measured. I must be very honest with you. I'm measured. I will still wish all of them the very best. I will support with all my heart and with all my mind. But I am very measured in how much of a success we will be able to chalk in this next 6 weeks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Gary, what's your level of faith in the AFCON and qualifying us for the World Cup?
Post Kwesi Appiah, I've taken a stance that once the coach is given the job, and for those who follow me on social media, it's follow them. When it comes to a point where I feel, they really have been given a certain amount of chances, then like I did with Siki Akona, I said, based on all the prevailing circumstances, he was not going to. So for Milo, it's 100% support all the way. But not just that, it's also predicated on the fact that our position on the group that we are currently on is not precarious. It's not precarious at all. It's a blip. Now, we have a game in 2 weeks. And as they say, it may be cliched, but it's one game at a time. Beating Zimbabwe in Cape Coast, it's not just important that we win. People are going to watch because they want to see something. And yesterday at the press conference, Milo made a very interesting revelation.
And sincerely, if we won, will it be because of him?
No. You see, the thing about Sigi Akona, which we also said last week, was not that he was not a good coach. But, and we cycle back to the same point, that a lot of people don't like the idea that even before a ball is kicked, CK cannot take responsibility for the 11 players on the pitch. So even if you are judging him, you are feeling a bit guilty in the way you are judging him. Because you know, if you are connected, that it wasn't his own thing. But with this guy, for example, we are sure that come 2 weeks' time, if he loses the match and you watch the game, you also watch the game, and you sit down and say, oh, this coach Inofos, you are sure that it be Inofos. It's not that somebody, that is what we are looking at. So, and then finally, the final anecdote I would give, which will explain the bit of hope I have in the fact that we can do something with this man, is this. If there's one person in the last 10 years of all the local or the Ghanaian and foreign coaches we have hired, who does not give a toss about the fact that your name is Jordan Ayew. But I have seen somebody called Samson Ladi, who plays for Kwabe Brem United. He fits what I want. And so, Jordan, you know what? This game, you sit down and let Samson play. It is this man.
people say he ditched us the last time, unceremonious, the way he behaved, and we're so unhappy about it.
Chairman.
So where's his loyalty, really?
The loyalty.
It's about the competence.
So for me, right now he's in the job. You let him qualify us for the World Cup and leave us.
All right. I think that will be a very good note on which...
Is he going to do the job? If he leaves the job and he doesn't renew, he has done the job and qualified.
That would be a very good note on which we draw the curtain on this first segment of the discussion about the Black Stars. And I feel, a bit fired up, to keep my support high for the Black Stars, because it's the only team I support in the whole world in my life. Thank you, Kojo Ademens, a former columnist, Kotoko Express and sports analyst. Of course, you don't only spend your time in the banking hall or counting money, preserving our money and growing it at the Cal Bank, right? Data bank, yeah. But you find time to get so in depth into these issues. Thank you very much, and thank you also.
My pleasure. I'm married. That's Sweeney.
All right. And thanks to Gary Al Smith of Joy Sports. He is your one of your foremost international guys in the sports arena in this country. And thank you for the work you did yesterday. Some of us had to stay glued to learn about all of these things.
As we say,
thank you.
The job is the job.
Right. We will be right back to... Yes, I almost forgot about that. Yes. I almost forgot about that. Yeah.
Well, I can understand. I mean, like you, I don't follow soccer that much anymore, thanks to the Black Stars, actually. I think I got my first heartbreak from the Black Stars in a friendly we had with Germany, the Bochum disaster. Yeah. I remember I almost slept out of home that night. I remember the game was played in the evening, and after the defeat, I walked out of home, went to a nearby, school, was just lying on the veranda, just helpless.
That's what soccer does to people.
Yeah, and that is when I started taming my love, for soccer and the Black Stars. So I have since not, been a passionate supporter of the Black Stars. But every now and then, they get me having butterflies in my chest, like when they did in Germany and then later in South Africa. But they always flatter. To disappoint at the end of the day. Right. But the love is still there. You can't help it, So even when you say you don't want to follow, every now and then you see some glimmer of hope, and you follow to see if there will be some light at the end of the tunnel. But then you get hit by a train every time. But what is happening now? I mean, I've listened to a number of presentations that have been made. I've also had the time to read a few articles, and I mean, Gary and Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo and Kojo have done a fantastic job, at making us understand the state that we are in. Clearly, for me, CK was always going to be a stopgap measure. I mean, it was as if the people in the game or in the sport picked their boy and said, "You handle this for the meantime, and let's figure out what to do." I mean, it always seemed that way to me. So I didn't really expect that much from him. And I'm not disappointed that the marriage ended on the note that it did. But, I mean, when you follow the trajectory of his, dismissal and the appointment of Rajovic, you begin to wonder if we knew all along that we're going for Milo. It's as if the team or people involved knew who they wanted, but they just had to keep us in suspense and perhaps prepare our minds to accept that Milo was coming back. I mean, so let's see what he can do. Yes, he has a very rich, track record with us, no doubt about that. But one will also not be... it would not be unfair for one to wonder what has changed since he left 2010, and what about his attitude has changed, and how differently are we going to relate with him this time around. The only thing I hear that makes me wonder if indeed we are assessing it properly is the fact that we are paying him $30,000 now, when we used to pay him 30,000 euros in 2010. When I do the maths, I don't really see the gain. It is just
sounds to you that his value is reduced.
No, our CD is reduced. The value of our CD is reduced.
All right, thank you.
Because if you look at the exchange rate, it's almost the same as he was earning. In Europe.
He says that he has an unfinished business in Ghana, and he's committed to that task. Thank you.
Let me say good morning to my ladies club in Kalpohen. In fact, they just sent me a message that they are watching. The team coach, Mr. Bingi. My regards to you and the ladies.
Thank you very much. And thank you once again, Gary L. Smith, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, and Kojo Ade Mensah, CEO, Data Bank. We'll be right back to ask the questions about crime and daylight robberies.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. We have many of your messages on the first issue we discussed, but we'll be sharing them with the rest of the world very soon. Our guest for this segment, Al-Hassan Suhini, is already here. We have ACP Kwesi Ofori, who is Acting Director General of the Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service, Professor Kwesi Enin, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. And we also have Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Executive Director, Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEG, and Dr. Eric Odro Osai, Governance Expert. They will be helping us with the last leg of the discussion on the MMDCE nominations. So, on the question of crime and the appearance that it is particularly daylight robberies on the rise, I don't know what you, the police, are telling the populace, the citizenry, because they're just happening a bit too frequently within the same period. What would you say? Are you as worried and disturbed as some members of the public? Because we have counted about 4 in a period of just 1 week.
Let me state that the police administration is so much concerned about the development. And on assumption of office, the acting Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufu Dampare, called a national police conference made up of all regional commanders, unit commanders, as well as the members of the police management board. And such matters were discussed. Strategies were mapped out based on a regional development. And as such, commanders went back. First, regarding the Bunu East, for instance, we've seen a massive reduction in robberies around Kajeji, Yeji, Prang areas. And then in the Bunu East, also around Techiman, a lot of development have been done. At the moment as we speak, a lot is also going on around the northern region, the northern corridor, where anti-robbery special task force are supporting the regions in fighting all kinds of robberies along the route. Because we know around Bono East, some of the robberies even take place in the daytime. And a lot has been done. A lot of them also have been arrested and sent to court. And we've dismantled most of the networks through special tax operations, search operations, and also targeting criminals in those areas. But when it comes to Accra, a lot has been done. Even following yesterday's incident, the Acting Inspector General of Police and the Police High Command invited the regional commander of Accra, Tema, and all divisional commanders of both regions. And that meeting went into late night, where strategies again were re-looked at. And some of the notable things that they called for was massive deployment at strategic areas, economic areas, bank areas. And we're also going to ensure that we strengthen our intelligence efforts, patrols, targeting these criminals and making sure that we get them. Aside that, public engagement, the commander should also go out there and engage the vulnerable and engage their communities, sensitize them on some of these issues as to how best the civil populace can cooperate with the police to fight these menace. So we're putting up a grand, security strategies in place. Some we can talk about it as we're doing now. Some are also a preserve, for the police to look at and implement. And all these things are being done. But I can tell you, yesterday our release came out that our intelligence team, operational teams are closing on them. Their time is running out. And we'll do whatever it takes, to get them out of business. And the police is so poised. The leadership of the police is so determined that we create a desirable security for our people, those on the street, in their homes, offices and workplaces, and our general communities. So a lot is going on, and now we're going to also ensure high visibility presence of the police. You might have noticed that even the horses also have been brought on board.
Okay.
In the past, it was just for ceremonial purposes. And they are also doing a lot of community policing, a lot of community engagement. People are talking to them, children are talking to them, the aged are all talking. And I think it's good. But regarding this 5-member or so gang, armed to the teeth, that are causing trouble in the metropolis, we can state that a lot of work has been done of them. We've identified some, and we are going all out to get them. And sooner or later, a good story might be heard from the police.
That's reassuring. But when we look at the statistics, in the first half of this year, for the first half of 2021, total number of reported cases, I'm talking about murder, for example, even though our focus today is about daylight robberies, total number of reported cases, 303. Confirmed cases, 306. That's murder cases. And the gender distribution has been 261 being male and 52 being female. Now, in respect of the daylight robberies, we have seen what has happened in Accra. On Monday, 20th September, at Achimota along the Accra-Nsawam Highway, 4 armed robbers executed that well-planned and coordinated, thing where they appeared to have, trailed a woman from a bank at Abaka. She went to withdraw a large amount of money. 3 motorbikes surrounded the woman's vehicles while she was waiting for the traffic for her turn. Then, they jumped on her. She handed over her 3 bags containing money to the robbers without hesitation. The robbers quickly jumped behind the waiting motorcycles and sped off, leaving the woman traumatized. We had another broad daylight robbery occurring at Kwasiman on Wednesday, close to a bank again in the area. A man who is yet to be identified was shot in the leg not long after he came out of the bank and made away with his money. However, at the time that my production team was putting this material together, it was not immediately known if he was being trailed by the robbers who appeared and were on the motorbike. We had a third incident that was reported at Apenkwa. According to the police statement, 33-year-old woman was robbed at gunpoint of an amount of 29,000 Ghana cedis. The victim escaped unhurt. A bystander, however, sustained some injuries after the robbers fired gunshots. The police in Accra said that you are seriously pursuing that matter. And the statement that you issued on the 3 robbers, you signed it. People want to know, specific to these matters, what steps or actions have been taken, if any?
Thank you. The police have done a lot through intelligence-led operations. One, trying to establish the identity and those involved. And their way of doing things have been properly established within our intelligence system, and we are using every available means to get them. Thirdly, we've also distributed dossiers on them to our operational teams, to make sure that we get them. And we are coordinating these operations from national to regional level to the divisional levels. And we can see that coordination working very well. Even in one of the robbery cases that you've mentioned, we have we've made an arrest. And that person is under serious investigations. And the coming days, the coming times might tell us what we're going to do. That is why we said we're closing on them. And we've thrown an eager eye, monitoring all their developments. And in addition, as part of yesterday's emergency meeting with the IGP chaired, he had directed the regional commander, divisional commander to make sure that patrols around financial institutions should be a key thing. And well, police, we don't just do things anyhow, but we have a crime mapping department, that tries to map out emerging crimes, those that are serious, those that are almost cropping up. And he has charged the commanders to make sure that they go out there and deal with the situation. So around banks, around where people transact business, we might be seeing a lot of police patrols, both plainclothes and uniform, in doing so. But let me also state that when it comes to this money, we have to also to look at the mobile money, the way we position them. You see people carrying bags moving from one trader to the other, that they are into this mobile money business. You see others also sitting just by the roadside with monies in the bag. And it also poses a threat. And I believe that it is time that we will also deal with the telcos. If they are really running business of that nature, then where they should situate should be also a matter of security concern. Because some are even sitting under trees anyhow, on bike and so forth. And it is very difficult, for to monitor, such things. So we're putting out, we are now looking at local response. We've situated ourselves into our local circumstances. And this is what yesterday's meeting dealt with. And the coming days, the coming time, we hope, to improve. But let me say we are serious about it. We are Ghanaians, we have families, we are Ghanaians, and we will not let this happen many times.
Interesting. Let me go to Professor Kwesienin. And Prof, how do you gauge the situation? And how does the police win this battle in a most effective manner, particularly in an institution that there are rumors about a few of them being complicit in some of these things? Hello, Professor Enin.
Hello, Samson. Thank you.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Good.
Lost you again. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute your mic again.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you very much for your questions. And I think I've stated this several times, and I'll repeat it. It's going to get much worse before ACP Kwesifori and his team begin to have a grasp on this. What we are seeing is the culmination of several years of lack of investment in police intelligence, lack of investment in planning, lack of investment in understanding the changing dynamics of crime, and the usage of operational intelligence in mapping out, responding to, and distributing resources, and then pulling back the information to say, how do we link the disbursement of logistics to particular crime-prone areas in such a manner that we will be able to respond appropriately and effectively. So it is now beginning, and the criminals are a couple of steps ahead of the GPS. But we shouldn't lose hope.
Really? They are ahead of the police?
Pardon?
They are ahead of the police, a police that now is capable of surveilling the entire of Accra, even though the plan to bring in cameras tied to the traffic lights has been sort of, it looks like aborted somewhat because of what happened, and that company has gone to arbitration in London about it. We see that when crimes happen, later they bring out the footage, and we get to see, how the robbers went into the situation, although it's difficult to identify them properly.
The usage of CCTV is key. But the manner in which the information captured on those cameras are used, who has access to them, and more disturbingly, the manner in which the Adedenpo murder and robbery and the information on that CCTV camera was thrown out into the public space, putting in danger the owner of those cameras, truly has undermined the public trust in how it can share intelligence with this service. But once more, I am quite hopeful that the steps that ACP Kwesifori has outlined, if carried through, by generating trust between the service on one hand and the community on the other. Because in the end, Samson, the recipients or the beneficiaries of effective policing are ordinary citizens. And they have an ultimate interest in ensuring that whatever information that they pass on will be handled in a very secure manner. But Samson, this is only one aspect of a much larger problem. We are seeing a change in the quality and caliber of weaponry being used. We are now seeing military-grade weapons being used. I mean, an ACP Kwesifori will confirm this. 10 years ago, probably even 8 years ago, 5 years ago, we were seeing pump-action guns. Okay, right now we are seeing military-grade guns, AK-47s. Now, Kwesifori has used the word intelligence several times and crime mapping. This lady who withdrew the money from the bank, how did criminals know that she had the money on her? Okay, are we picking up people within that particular bank, checking their laptops, checking their phone records to ensure if there's been some compromise of sensitive information relating to the client?
Or even people related to that particular victim?
Yeah, but whatever it is, I think some really very hard questions would need to be asked to reassure us, or those who use the banking facilities, that the backgrounds of bank staff are checked, secure, and they are routinely, also checked again, because it raises some very fundamental questions. The speed with which this woman was tracked down, and the gang-style manner in which her monies were stolen.
If you take the developments surrounding the list of MMDCEs being released, this time round, you find that the disturbances on the back of these nominations, at almost every point where they have happened, there have been arrests, and they assure us that prosecutions will follow. Unlike the previous period, when the same announcement was done, same regime, and you saw quite a good number of, these party people running around, running amok, burning places, and absolutely nothing happened to them. Does it give you a sense now that what has happened now suggests that we should be hopeful of something different?
Well, Samson, there is no doubt about it. Although institutions matter, leadership plays a critical role. Don't forget, it's the same institution that we are talking about that allowed itself to be pushed around. And ACP Kwesifori himself knows this. He got his job done right, and he was transferred and punished for doing what was right. Kwesifori in your studio is a living testament of how this same institution turned, or its leadership then, turned its back on individual senior officers who only sought to use the law to do what was right. So we are seeing a conflation of two critical dynamics here: the utility of institutional processes and mechanisms, but even more importantly, that leadership drive and role. So what Kwesifori has been telling us this morning is something that he has been saying for years. The only difference now is that his boss, Dr. Dampare, shares those same values that they want to ensure that the institution has the gumption to use the laws of Ghana to protect the people of Ghana. Simple, straightforward, doable.
Okay.
And I think that is what we are all looking forward to.
Right. Now, before I get back to Kwesifori, Sweeney, as just an ordinary, citizen, and you will not be classified as such because you're representing, a constituency.
That's so ordinary.
What do you know, and how do you feel about what we are reading as regards the daylight robberies?
Well, Samson, it is worrying. And the insecurity situation has been on the ascendancy for a very long time now. like Prof said, to my trepidation, it looks like it's going to get worse unless, you know, we support initiatives that I see now that gives us some hope to stem the tide. But as for the insecurity situation, it's been on the wall for a very long time now. And, you know, it is often said that insecurity or security matters are apolitical. And I agree, only to the extent that its effects does not discriminate. That is the point at which I agree that security and insecurity matters are apolitical. But when it comes to investments, that's Prof spoke about, investments in intelligence, investments in logistics, when it comes to recruitments, many a times, these are influenced by political decisions. How and when people are recruited, you know, the kind of investments that are made in the security establishments to guarantee our security are all political decisions that are taken. But it's as if security is apolitical to many of us, and I don't exclude myself and my party. When we are in office, but when we are in opposition, they find expression in our manifestos. And that is why, for example, the current president and, you know, the vice, you know, captured it in their 2016 manifesto, giving us assurance that they wanted to ensure that people will walk freely and feel safe on the streets of Accra. Now, playing that back seems unnecessary politics. But then I have always said, what is the use of politics if it is not to guarantee and ensure, you know, better conditions for all of us to live in? So I agree to the extent that crime is apolitical, to the extent that it does not discriminate when it comes to its effects. But when it comes to what has to be done to guarantee our safety and ensure our safety, you cannot, you know, discount the role that the political class play in that. For example, we have all discussed so many times about the opportunity we have as a continent with a youth bulge. But again, we are also aware of the threats to the effect that if we are unable to harness the energies of these people, provide them with the necessary conditions to reach their potential, those energies will be diverted and used wrongly to the, you know, detriment of all of us. So graduate unemployment has been an issue we talk about, but find it sometimes difficult to relate that to some of the changing trends in the insecurity that we all see around us. It is clear that they are linked. And so, again, providing the necessary conditions for people who have the energy and the know-how to explore other avenues of keeping body and soul together cannot be said not to be something that people in the political class and all of us together should be working at. Because when that happens, it does not automatically reduce crime, but it has, you know, an impact on how people are attracted to be criminals or not. Again, we have often talked about small arms in this country, but really, what are the policies and programs we have put in place to ensure that we know truly how many arms come into this country or are manufactured in this country and how they are distributed, the channels that are used in their distribution and tracked? We don't seem to have that. And worst of all, those of us, again, in the political class have, you know, nurtured this culture of food soldierism, where in many communities, some of these people will approach their political leaders and request that they are given weapons to protect themselves against attacks from other political opponents. And it cuts across. And these are sometimes extended to them. But what we do not know is whether or not when they have these weapons, they only use it to protect their, party that they claim to want to protect when they request for these weapons. So you have, and because there is no tracking system to see how weapons come in or are manufactured and the channels through which they are distributed, you are unable to even know where a gun is coming from and how or where it has ended up. Okay. And so when it is used in a crime like we have seen this week, you are not even able to trace those people who have had this arm. So we need to take the discussion of small arms seriously and how we can track some of these things. But maybe finally, I think that the police service should also focus on doing a trend analysis of some of these crimes that have been taking place and better advise citizens on how they can also be responsible in protecting themselves. Because, Samson, I have noticed something. As far as I can recall, we used to have break-ins at dawn in, homes by these armed robbers. It's not that rampant these days. Then you had attacks in new settlements, even sometimes daytime. They went to these new settlements and attacked homes and raided those homes. Then it is not also that common these days, even though it still happens. Then you had recently the Bullion Vans attacks. Then you have also had these attacks related to people taking money from banks. Then you have had the highway robberies. And then the mobile money, vendors who are also attacked. How are they related? Is there any relation at all? What kind of analysis have been done so that people are also better informed?
Yes. So
to help the police in protecting them.
Right. So on your part, as you listen to Professor Kwesienin, things might get worse before you are able to stabilize the situation. How much of, citizen cooperation or the public's support are you getting in fighting these crimes? Because as we understand, without the people supplying information and assisting you, you will not make, good progress. And when they supply the information, how quick are you?
Thank you very much. You might have noticed that this particular police administration is closing in on the civil populace to make sure that we interact, we share ideas, and they also provide information. The administration has made it known crime reporting, providing information, intelligence to the police is key. And we are seeing a lot of development in that relation. We've seen strengthening of the PID, the Police Intelligence Department, as also, in terms of recruitment, in terms of resources, in terms of direction, in terms of policy direction. A lot is happening. And we're also rolling out our visibility program. Don't forget, the Acting Inspector General of Police spearheaded the visibility concept under the former IGP, Mr. Mohammed Al-Hassan. And things are on its way again, making sure that this time round is going to take effect very soon, and we're going to see a more robust police in our neighborhoods, in our communities, among others. And things are being done to enlist public support. The Public Affairs Department is coming out again with this program on crime fighters, which I think we did with your station here for quite a long time. Israeli. We're going to revive all these things together with other houses to make sure that we educate the public. For instance, taking huge amounts of money from the banks should be looked at. When one goes to the bank, for instance, to cash money, and the money seems to be huge, we advise citizens always to go in for off-counter service. You can request that, and you'll be taken to a small room, giving your money, and a safe passage given for you to go out. And we're also going to talk to the banks as part of this drive.
Yeah, talking to them right now.
That one, who are the people that comes into the banking hall? Do they have a service? Do they have something to do at the counter? Are they coming for services? Oftentimes you see neatly dressed persons sitting at the banking hall without doing anything, just monitoring. And you see phone calls, and at a time some of the banks even issue out a directive pasted openly that no call should be made in the banking hall. Others, they do not have such facilities. So we're going to go out, the public relation outfit will be.
But most of these things, they didn't do it in the banking hall. We don't know that they entered the banking hall or anything. They were around the place.
Yes, and one thing is,
they laid wait for the victims.
Yes, we carry out one very important operations when at Opebia, a businessman went there to cash money. And Accra Regional Police Operations is intelligent team gunned down 3 people. People were talking about it, but it was intelligence based. That man was to be attacked, and they were armed. And I think we open up to the public what we did. This time around, we are intensifying a lot of such operations. Even at Awudome area, the bank closed there. The police also tracked down criminals. Sure, some of them, we arrested them, and some of them have been put before court. So police are doing a lot, and we are coordinating a lot. But regarding the small arms, let me come in. We all know what happened.
Before the small arms, Professor Enin had asked, have you done, he said you talk about mapping and intelligence. If these things happen around the bank where it happens, do you find out within even, the people who work in the bank, check either through their phones or their other gadgets if they are connected?
Yeah, one was done just yesterday. One was done yesterday where we arrested someone and working with the bank. Not necessarily a banking staff, but working with the bank. We arrested him yesterday, and a lot is happening on that also.
Is this in Accra or Kumasi?
In Accra.
Okay.
In Accra. And in Kumasi yesterday, when people also went to rob at Dawunsaso, the police killed 2 in the heat of the operations, where they ransacked a businessman, wanted to take some pieces of gold away, and the police killed 2 yesterday. And that is a good story. So coming to the...
That one, is it intentional to deter these criminals? Because I'm beginning to hear a lot of, we gun down, and you are killing them.
No, especially, that is in the heat of operations.
Okay.
This one, they are into action. They were shooting all over, breaking doors and so forth, when the police chanced upon them, responded appropriately. Like the Opebia one, for instance, when they went in, it was through the monitoring of a member of the public, looking at the way when the man took the money, when he was going, the way, they took off, the way the way they were even monitoring the guy. They alerted police moving and saved the situation. And lo and behold, the man was having a lot of money. So one thing we are saying is that corporate institutions, businessmen that would like to go to the bank, they should look at the proper security arrangement. They can even fall on their local police to assist them.
Okay, you were about to talk about the small arms.
Yes.
And Professor Enin had spoken about military weapons now being introduced into the game.
Yes.
AK-47s.
Yes. Let us not forget what happened in West Africa. In 2 or 3 countries. Let's look at the civil wars that took place. the violence that took place, proliferation of light weapons into our sub-region. And now some of the wars are over and criminals are passing on from one country to the other. Let me tell you, the Ghana Immigration Service, the Ghana Police, the Armed Forces on Border Patrols, National Security have done a lot of seizures, along these borders. And we have the Small Commission and Commission on Small Arms. They are also working, tabulating, giving us projections and coming out with their analysis and not keeping it. They share it with national security and the security agencies. But like seeing how some of our borders are porous, tracking some of these weapons become very difficult. And internally also, there have been a lot of seizures through police operations, and some from the armed robbery criminal gangs through soups, among others. And all that we are saying is, we are determined. The re-strengthening of the Ghana Police Service under this new administration, we are so focused, a lot of planning, management is at work. Like yesterday's one, it was so interesting. Throughout the night, mapping out locally based strategies. And we hope the commanders will take it serious and implement all that we've said. They have the authority and power to revise some of these strategies and to make it more operational inclined. And we're going to see a lot more.
We also hear stories about how some of these arms, find themselves or their way into illegal hands, that, a few law enforcement, agents are complicit, police officers.
One thing is, when you look at it, all the security agencies in Ghana are so determined to flush out such miscreants. There are a lot of them in jail behind bars, those who committed those offenses, it. And that this particular administration is so determined that they're going to bridge the gap between the police and the civil populace and all other stakeholders. Again, we would like the public also to cooperate with us, offer more information, credible information that might help us. Let's look at, what happened even at the Takoradi about this kidnapping issue. The police invested so much, by sending information through your networks. And lo and behold, a member of the public responded appropriately based on the description given, help us to locate this woman. So we see a new change when you go to our Facebook account, the Twitter, and all those things.
You used, as we understand, you use technology, even though that's not an issue we are discussing. You use technology to trace where she was making the calls, or the people allegedly around her were calling from, and so on, and traced to get her out. How much of technology are you using? People are getting bolder. They take videos of robberies, and we have seen it happened. Achimota is a Kwashiman. They took, and then it's all over the place. How much of technology are you using in your processes?
A lot of technology is being used now. Now our monitoring center at the National Operation Department, National Headquarters, have the capability of monitoring our cities and our major roads throughout the country. A lot also have been achieved in that area, in spite of that we just started. For instance, talking about street robberies and so forth. We've made some arrests through intervention of such facility, that technology. And I believe that the coming times is going to play a critical role. Police now have access to this technology, and we are using it, and we'll make sure that very soon we're going to see how we can even link it to other data that we have.
This is a national security project, but how is that coming up? The traffic, cameras at traffic lights, because some of these things are happening at the traffic lights.
Yeah.
So that they will capture the people who are doing wrong at the traffic areas.
Yes. In fact, it's it has special features, not only for traffic. Special features, and it could be thrown, into several distance. And I think it's helping not only the traffic, but for now, as a result of deaths on our road, number of deaths on our roads, the Inspector General of Police and members of his administration have decided that we should use this to reduce deaths on our roads. Make sure that we encourage self-enforcement. People should be disciplined on our roads. So a lot of arrests have been done, over 3,000. There are some that also have been taken to court. They find them, and if you fail to find, then imprisonment follows or some kind of sanction. And these things are going on well, and now we're beginning to see. But we aiming at, the 4x4, those huge 4x4 cars, people who ride on the shoulders of the road, middle of the road, using light. It is beginning to show signs of some signs of positive signs.
Thank you.
But let me say finally that regarding our fight towards this street robbery, we are determined, we are focused, we lay down our objective goals and strategies. And to those people doing this, we are saying that crossing our path will be too dangerous for them as far as they try to molest, harm, and kill decent people in our city. We're not going to sit down and watch them do some of these things. So we've marshaled all our operational patrol teams, intelligence, foot patrols, and whatever means that we have.
You have all our support. We want you to deliver more results. Professor Enin, what should they be doing to better assure the public and also receive sufficient support from the public in the fight?
In doing that, for instance, we know of Afram Plains of late. They've recorded some robberies around Afram Plains where our market women, go for food items and so forth. You might have noticed that last 2 days or so, the Inspector General of Police and his team went there, like resource thing that Professor Kwesi Enin said, went there on a fight-finding mission, look at the total strength of policemen, look at the resources that they have in the Afram place, and part of the Bono East where he went, Zamrama among others. They've done a lot of assessment, a lot of resources are being sent in terms of vehicles, in terms of arms, in terms of even training our people at home.
Okay, all right, thank you. I had asked the question to Professor Enin. Yes, Professor Enin, how do they better assure the public of our safety and also secure sufficient cooperation to fight crime?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is sending the signal that we have a new police service that truly does care. Hands-on, present, dialogic, assuaging the fears of ordinary citizens, encouraging people to bring the basic knowledge and intelligence that they have about suspicious movements, suspicious operations, and once more the reassurance that such information will not be passed on. I think these are things that the service can do and it doesn't cost them any money. Actually, that people are looking forward to this partnership. And once more, the effort by the acting IGP to have a hands-on, collaborative, listening approach. I think he's been to parts of the Eastern region, he's been to part of Bono and other areas. He did a walkabout in Kasra with his top team. When we see police officers present in our communities, willing to listen, willing to engage, where we can go to them to share our common fears, that provides easy, simple intelligence, and by extension, bring about the community, society partnerships that we have been talking about. This is cost-free, and together, I think if it continues, and it must continue, we will get there.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Professor Kwesi Enin.
Something,
yes.
Just to add that,
yes, 1 minute.
I just want to caution that it is too early for us to praise sing and to be overly confident with our plans and programs. Like I indicated earlier, see some signs and movements that gives me hope. But I will want it carried forward and, implemented to ensure our protection. And let us be those who will express the confidence in it. For example, I spoke about and whilst the new police service leadership is doing this, I will want again to encourage those in charge of the public purse to make it easy for them to implement some of these programs and plans, because it will require some level of investments, decisions that they can't make, but those with the public purse, in this case the president, the vice president, and the finance minister, to make the right kind of investments and perhaps tweak some of our policies. I spoke of the small arms, for example. I do know, Samson, that the Small Arms Commission is not involved in the importation and licensing of weapons in this country. And yet, again, their budgetary allocation has not been that, meaningful, given the kind of rules that we want them to play. Again, in the area of recruitment, we have done a lot of wrong things in the past.
That's right.
I am happy, for example, that now we have gone back to the system of making it available online for people to apply and, qualified or disqualified based on the criteria that has been set up. I hope that the manual verification that will follow after the qualified applicants will also be above board, so that we do not have what we all suspected used to happen, the infiltration by some unqualified people, especially criminals.
It's very, very
by their
disturbing.
Association of some political parties got into
very
this.
disturbing. We have had situations where you think everything is above board and the people are being screened up to a point, only to be asked to bring money by people within the service, and they have to pay. If they don't pay, they are out, and that is very terrible. It's not good at all. Doesn't speak well of us. But again, not long ago, I was giving this example, and it meant everything to me. The award I received from the GJ Award, the car that I was giving, the car came without the documentation immediately. So I asked for the documentation. But the very next, I took it on a Thursday or Friday, and I needed to bring it to the office here the next time. By the time I was bringing it, the next day after I got it, I got a comprehensive insurance for it. But I didn't have the roadworthy card with it, even though it's licensed. So as I drove, police officers stopped me. And they said, "Where is your thing?" I said, "Okay, here is my my insurance, here's my driver's license." I said, "Roadworthy." Then I tried to explain to them. I was ready to let them take it, impound it to wherever it is if they want to take my ID or something, and later resolve that because I don't have it with me, roadworthy with me, I can't be driving it. But guess what? That moment, somebody was trying to have their way with a car that they had issue with. And that person called a senior officer in the police to talk to the officers who were down there to let him go. Do you know what I heard from one of the officers? It is Dan Parry who has asked us to authorize us to do this work. We will not listen to you. That was when my pride went up. That police officers can do their job and feel that even senior officers who are trying to circumvent the thing, they will not allow them. So you have our support, but we want to see a lot more of results. I've just been asked to ask you about this. This woman thing, which is turning out to be a fluke, sort of. Is she being prosecuted, or the people with her, are they being prosecuted?
She is in custody at the moment, and nothing will stop the police from going ahead to the court. When we look at the resources...
She's not been charged with any offense?
Oh, yesterday she was cautioned. She was cautioned, and even she admitted offense in the presence of her mom, husband, family relations, and an independent witness. But all that we would like to say is definitely we'll be going to court, looking at the harm even caused in terms of confusion between the family and state institutions, and what happened on the media front.
The regional minister's aide was saying that the regional minister has given 300 to the police to be given to alleged kidnappers as ransom. 3,000 Ghana cedis, even though they had demanded 500 and then it went up to 1,000.
We distance ourselves from that story.
You distance yourself?
Yeah, we are not part of it.
Police didn't take 3,000 from the regional
The police administration is not aware of such schemes.
Really?
Yeah, the police administration, I mean, is not part of it. And when we talk of the police administration, I'm talking about the headquarters management board, the headquarters management authority, and we are not part of it, and we distance ourselves.
No, let's clear this.
No,
you are saying that your
security
officers down there in Takoradi, your officers down there in the region, did not receive any 3,000 given by the regional minister to his aid to be given to them for onward transmission to the alleged kidnappers because they had demanded that?
I'm saying that did not come to the attention of the police administration. And in such security operations, one may ask, such sensitive thing bordering on kidnapping and such purported criminal activity, information around it should be well controlled. For instance, certain information, who is the releasing authority of such an information and where it is coming from? That's why I'm saying that we distance ourselves from such a stuff.
You don't just have to distance yourself. What are you going to do about it? Because it has been said in the public
when I say
by the regional minister's aid that your officers took 3,000 to be given to kidnappers.
No, as you said, when I say we distance ourselves, I mean it. I speak for the entire police service and the management board. But what I'm saying that thing has not come to the management board, and as you saying it, you are telling me, right?
Oh, he's been out in the public for 3 days now.
No, you are telling me. And we will be looking at it, whether really the regional police, the divisional police, or the station took such a thing, and what for, and whether that money...
You won't have to look far. We're told that you deployed, is it 40 men? And women?
No, we deployed 40 men. That was under the direction of the police administration. That was a search party, a search team, to go all out, because we don't want what happened in Takoradi yesterday, to resurface. So we were very serious about it. That one was under the direction and guide of the police administration, that we should go all out and get the kidnappers, the purported kidnappers. And we did all that we could, supported with community sensitization, supported with counting on the media, to help us. And lo and behold, a member of the public provided information. But lastly, and thank God, where we counted on opinion of experts. They came in, it was disputed. We went in for a second opinion at Fiamkwanta Regional Hospital.
That's about the pregnancy.
Yes, okay. Where the hospital came clear about that. Now, jumping into the recruitment that you're saying, the police administration is so determined that whatever we publish, whatever guidelines we provided, we're going to make sure that the recruitment is genuine in its entire operations, and the rightful people who join the service. Background checks, among other things, will be done. But let me make it clear that we've seen a lot of fraudsters also putting in a lot of information on several sites and so forth. And we'll say that we've not asked anybody to report to any of the aforementioned areas they're talking about. We say anybody that approaches you that he has been asked to recruit from home to home or from community to community, just arrest the person and send him to the nearest police station.
Thank you so very much. ACP Kwesi Ofori is Acting Director General of the Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service. On Zoom, we spoke to Professor Kwesi Enin, who is Director of Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. In the studio is Alhassan S. Suhini MP, Tamale North and Member Appointments Committee of Parliament. We return with Alhassan and Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, as well as Dr. Eric Odro Osai, to discuss the appointment or the nomination of MMDCEs. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Evans Mensah, and you can relive all the fun and excitement on Top Story, Newsnight, and of course, Ghana Connect via podcast. All you need to do is to log on to myjoyonline/podcast. Search for your favorite show and relive the moment. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
If you have 260 nominations and for 260 districts, and you have only 1 or 2 places where there have been some disorderly conduct is not something that we should lose focus at all. But certainly, the law should take its course. I mean, there's nothing like because you're a party person or because it's about political issues, you can decide to go against the law and people should allow you to go. There's absolutely no justification about it. President is supposed to make appointments. He's made appointments. Article 243(1). Local Governance Act. There. Section 20. Is the president who appoints the chief executive. There's no law that I know of or regulation that tells how Mr. President should go through the process. That he should form a committee, he should have a vetting process. There's no law. So it's the president who should make the appointment. He decides.
This is live. Chairman Dikale.
Right, so you heard Dan Boche and also protests, just a pocket of some of the protests that we heard about as soon as the list of the MMDCEs was announced. Let me read just a few of your messages here. Proverbial Twitter, that is Kofi Amoa, says, did I hear Kwesi Fori say the Josephine lady who confessed was cautioned, but the police wants to take it to court? Yes, when he says cautioned, it's legal terminology. It doesn't mean like she was warned. No, it means a statement has been taken from her, and a caution statement means you are actually under arrest, and so she'll be processed for court. That's what he meant. Sir Kobe A Mondo says, it is the reason I have serious issues with the Okada business being encouraged. You solve a security problem with another security threat. Nation building should be our utmost concern. No popularist agenda. You wanted to say populist agenda? Honorables, the police online recruitment will only disqualify you upon age and height. What has height got to do with 21st century policing? And when the selection is done, just compare the height being required and that's finally selected. That is interesting. Jama Woyale Zongo Banku says rampant armed robbers no longer rob at night. Fiscal daylight mission. Are we safe at all in this country? Well, the police are assuring you that support them and will ensure that you are safe. You say you are watching the Achimota robbery footage. These robbers did it very simple with guts over fear. Tanko Osman says there should be a shift in security management in this country. We can reduce crime by tackling issues of human security. The 7 elements of human security must be given priority, and general security will reduce drastically. Right. Just 2 weeks ago in Boga, the national security admitted that issues of employment and the rest are a big national security concern. K. Amofa says, in many developed economies, withdrawal of large volumes of cash trigger police calls. Once online bank transfers are possible, why are people allowed to take huge amounts of fiscal cash from banks? In my view, there must be law regulating huge amounts of money from banks. There is. We simply don't follow them. That's our problem. Prince Henry in Koforidia says the police must also make sure the citizens identify will be protected when they give out information on particular crimes or criminals in a particular location within their jurisdiction. People are afraid to give out information to police for fear of victimization. Right, you're right about that. And actually, there's a law we recently made, witness protection. All of that is supposed to give you protection. Emmanuel J. Bequin says, I can imagine how uneasy the past leadership of the police feel anytime the commendable effort by the current leadership is discussed. But that is it. You reap what you sow. Competent leadership makes the difference between strong and weak institutions. Musa Batua, you're reading too much politics into it. I can't read your message. Thank you very much. Now, let me go to Dr. Emmanuel Akwete and also Eric Odrosai to begin this discussion. And Suhini is still here with us in the studio. Well, Dr. Odrosai, let's begin with you. You were with us the last time we spoke about these nominations that were delayed, and now they have been made. And the usual thing that greets them is beginning to happen. But like I have noted, thankfully, it looks like they've been coiled. How do we avoid such, things greeting the nominations being published? And what do you say about the gender aspect? Only 38 women.
Thank you very much. And let me say good morning to your listeners. I think it's rather unfortunate we saw people protesting after the president or the minister for local government announced the president's nominees. I was expecting that wider consultation would have been made. But I can understand what is happening. Unfortunately, because of the purported leak of the committee's report, people's expectations were very high. So people thought that once the committee has submitted their names or nominated them or recommended them to the president, automatically the president would have to affirm it. What they fail to recognize is that the ultimate power rests in the hands of the president to nominate. So that bit was also there. I think that it is rather unfortunate, but I want to commend the security agencies for quelling it, then also finding a way of explaining things to them. It sends a signal to me that people still do not understand our local governance system, and they are refusing to appreciate the fact that even after the president has nominated the person will then have to face the General Assembly for a concurrent approval. And when you look at the model standing orders for local government, under Part 3, the heading there is election of chief executive. What it means is that the General Assembly will constitute themselves into an electoral college to approve or disapprove the president nominee. So if people have issues, you are expected to pass on these issues to your assembly member so that they would exercise it at the point of approval or disapproval. Otherwise, I think it has gone on well. The mode of announcing the president nominee this year was phenomenal because the local government minister was at the Ministry of Information to announce it, released it out there, and I've been told that appointment letters would even be issued after the MMDCEs have been approved by the General Assembly. So far, so good. But I think there's a lot of work to be done by way of getting people's appreciation and understanding of how our local government system works, for them to understand that the ultimate power of who determines who to become an MMDCE does not even rest in the president, it rests in the General Assembly. The president just nominates under Article 253, and the General Assembly is expected to approve or disapprove. But the power they exercise is a delegated power given to them by people from their electoral areas. So that understanding must be there, so that it will reduce some of these agitations.
Are you equally concerned about the fact that you have only 14, just a little over 14% who are women? That is 38 out of the 260?
Yes, I am. I'm concerned. I'm concerned because in time past, we have all pushed for a 30% female representation. And even when you look at Article 35, 6D of the Constitution,
that's right.
It calls on appointees or political leaders or people appointing people into offices to ensure there is gender balance. And when you look at the recent population and housing census that was released, it is clear that the female population constitutes 50.7% of our population. So if we have only 14.56 or approximately 15% of MMDCEs, it's not the best.
In 10 out of the 16 regions, they outnumber the men.
They do, but something. It also depends on the number of women who put themselves up for nomination.
Yes.
When you look at the records, it seems to me that most women did not put themselves up to even give the vetting committee the opportunity to recommend them. So I think that the women groups in this country have a lot of work to do to encourage the women to also put themselves up so that they will be recognized to be appointed to such sensitive positions.
We are told it was only about 50 women that put themselves up, but doesn't that tell a story about what we have done to the women's segment or population over the period?
It does, but something, if only 50 put themselves up and 38 out of the 50 were nominated, I think we should give the appointing authority thumbs up. And also, when you look at the statistics, we've not gone beyond 11% as far as women representation in MMDCE is concerned. So we should all push to 30%. But I would also say that looking at what has happened in the past, let us all join the forces and push our women up. They should put themselves up. They should be that courageous so that at least we will close the gender gap. We cannot have a population that gives us almost 51% of women in the population. And when they come to decision making, they are less than 20%.
Okay. Let me talk to Dr. Manakwete and then Suhini. I'll return to you to tell us what you think about the situation with Santro Kofi, Akpafo, Lolobi, and Lekwe, together known as SAL, where they find themselves presently to sort of somewhat worsen their circumstance, where as we sit, what a sin, like Professor Kukwasari says all the time, it's a cardinal sin that we have a parliament that has a constituency that is not represented, and all of that is blamable squarely on the administration for the problem, and yet they won't want to take the blame. Yes, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, thank you so much. What will be your analysis of the reactions so far and also the gender question?
Thank you very much. Two observations I'll make is that we need to put this whole exercise in the broader context of the agenda that the president has indicated is pursuing. I had that deeper understanding because in 2017, early 2018, he met civil society leaders, and I was at that meeting. And he complained a lot about how difficult it was to appoint MMDCEs. The system was patronage-based. It wasn't merit that pushed it, but those who had financed elections and so on, you saw that as, the prize, the area that somebody ought to be, and so on. And he said for about 3 weeks he couldn't move. I mean, the pressure on him. So at that meeting, one of the things he said was that the system needs to be reformed. Thereafter, you saw how he outlined his agenda for local government reform. He mentioned 3 things. Yes, his party wanted the election of MMDCEs, but then he also said, look, parties should get involved. And thirdly, he said, look, I want to devolve more power and resources to the districts. And all this has to be attained within the first 4 years. He couldn't, and it's still the thing he's pushing. So if you put it in that context, that he wants to reform something, then you would see that this first attempt actually sheds light on a whole lot of what system we are operating. And I think, to me, it's proving clearly that there is a fight going on between the old system where the financiers had the greater say, and so those reacting, the question is, where are they coming from? Who are they reacting in support of? Where is the disappointment from? Because I think for me, this is the first time he's also exposed that parties are actually involved in local government, especially in the appointment of MMDCEs. It's just that it's just one party that controls the executive arm, and that party gets involved. But probably, I don't know if it's always been in systematic a way as we have seen now. The criteria set, the report, and the publication. Everybody complains about how this has delayed, even gone against the law. But he says, look, I have in place majority of the MMDCEs, and this is what has been done. So where I said, I think that this forms part of the bigger, is going to trigger the debate that we must have. Are we really saying that the appointment of MMDCEs is really something that is, according to the law, it's not a party thing, and that individuals somewhere have to be found by the president and appointed? And in that process, what happens? Are they able to deliver what the president wants to deliver? Or do they fail to do that? And I believe that all presidents in the Fourth Republic have issues with how the system has been run. So from that angle, I saw the protest as, the old system under attack and a reaction to it. But the bad job that I think has been done is that neither the party, the president's party, his spokespersons, put this method of doing things in context for us to understand why has he resorted to this and what are the consequences of that. So that is the point at which, but I think it sheds light. It's an important step. The question is whether NDC, for instance, if it gets back to power, is going to do this. Remember that the NDC, after CRC, had said that their white paper on the CRC report, for local government, and that is MMDCEs, 5 nominees, and the Public Service Commission would get involved in shortlisting that to 3. That's where it stopped, how they were going to be elected and so on. I think that idea reflected here, except that this one...
I thought the recommendation said that the president does that, then the shortlist is done, and then they are presented to the constituency or the local area for election, for voting. So it is not the assembly that will vote on them.
But it wasn't that clear, and there was no agreement on that anyway. We haven't gone that. But I'm just using the idea that some shortlisting, some process in electing MMDCEs, that probably will be backed by law or some clear policies have to be laid out than what had looked more like some chaotic situation where who calls the shot or who is a political patron, very powerful, influences the nomination of who, whether competence matters or not, it's another matter. But here we see that
until the office become an elective one by popular votes, what can be done to improve women participation, involvement of women? If you look at the Constitution itself, as Dr. Eric Odrosan refers to, this is a sin against the Constitution. Only 38 of the people are women.
I think, well, I don't know whether I can put it in biblical terms, but I think if I look at it rationally, the 30% of the 30% of those appointed in the assemblies that the president should appoint has never happened. It has never happened for close to 30 years now. And if you're going to look at the assembly system from 1988, then over 32 years. So when the system hasn't worked, you ought to dig deeper and find out why, if it's our culture and the challenges and obstacles or constraints that women have for being mothers, wives, traders, or whatever, it's fine. But this is also macho politics. Now, how do we turn it around? I think that the women themselves have spoken. The affirmative action law, if it had passed, would increase the number. But we don't also, actually, are laws enforced? Do public officials, religiously, this is where I want to use the religiously comply with what the law says, the parties and so on. We think that you ought to introduce a method, for instance, what we call the mixed member proportional representation.
Okay.
New Zealand has that. It is mandatory that if you present a list as a party, big or small, the percentage that ought to go to women and other groups, okay, youth, people with disability and all that, minorities in terms of communal identities and so on, will be reflected on your list. And then they vote, and that list is what is stamped, and that is what will be followed. We don't have such a mechanism. And at the end of the day, it's quite arbitrary and is driven by all sorts of factors. So I think we need to move from here. And it's also because the parties themselves, whatever they are doing at the local level, looks a bit illegal, you know, because they are not supposed to be involved in that. But once it is stamped, and the parties are playing a certain formal role, they can be held to account, and I think they're going to work harder to get the representation that should be there.
Right. So, Sweeney, you are in Parliament and belonging to the NDC. We knew that the attempt to amend the Constitution to make this by election, by popular vote, was almost a done deal until, you know, some of us spoiled the party, and then the NDC joined full. And yes, I know that you know, there are civil society organizations that were not pleased with me when I brought it up. That,
not
that
at all.
we can
we are
do
pleased
it.
With you,
all right,
it's an important
that we can
matter.
do it without making it a partisan thing, even though that is still playing the ostrich somewhat, because other countries, they do it. Will we get to that point? Because eventually it looks like that is where it is going to get to. It has to be elective and on partisan lines. Otherwise, this is how it's going to continue to remain.
Yeah, I think that we will get there. But first of all, Samson, I think that it is almost unforgivable that we are going to end the year without, in many cases, district chief executives, you know, at the various assemblies, because of the process of, you know, confirmation that will have to take place. It is just unforgivable because, you see, the assembly system is the bedrock of our democracy in this country. It is at the assembly that many community needs are, you know, attended to, and that is why we have the District Assembly Common Fund. And it would interest you to know that we are into the fourth quarter. We're just about done with the third quarter, and we still do not have first quarter releases to, you know, these assemblies. So the assemblies basically have not been functioning for a whole year. I mean, that is just unforgivable. And for a government that is not, you know, a new one, because it's supposed to be continuing, it is just unpardonable. And that point has to be made strongly before we even consider the number of women that are in the release nominations. And maybe just to respond to Doc earlier, when he spoke about the need for women-based organizations to encourage women to put themselves up for, you know, nomination in some of these cases. I think we've gone beyond encouragement. We all know the impediments that are in the way of women. It is not for nothing that they do not put themselves up. There are impediments that we are all aware of. So we need to begin to focus on removing those impediments. And I'm sure when we do, it will become automatic for these women to put themselves up for nomination. Again, Dr. Akwete talks about a certain reform that I fail to see in the release that we saw from some quarters in government that had the recommendations that the search party made. Clearly, consideration was still given to how the nominees supported the New Patriotic Party and contributed to the chances of the party in the various districts. I mean, just look through the reasons for recommending a nominee, and that featured prominently. So it is still a major consideration when it comes to...
There are some of the shortlisted people that some of us have gotten to know are competent, they are good, they have a background in local governance, but because they have they don't have much connection to the party,
contributing to the party at that level,
they were relegated.
Yes, I just look at the recommendation, read through the recommendations.
Yeah.
It is a key, consideration, for people to be nominated. So it's still, I don't see that as reformative. But yes, I can imagine that we need to move towards the situation where perhaps it will become elective and people will put themselves up. But it is important.
That's where I was asking the question, that does it look like eventually the NDC will change its position, that if it has to be elective, it should be elective but not tied to party lines? You will change it and say it should be elective on party lines, as the president had wanted us to do?
Well, I don't see us changing anytime soon. I mean, the discussion is still on in-house. I know Dr. Callista's, Kwame and others are engaged in this discussion, and I'm sure that they will advise us correctly on the approach.
Yes, but the women thing too.
Yes.
You always will find the women when you need the rallies, when you need them to cook, when you need them to do other things, But when it comes to representation, you can't find them. What are you parties telling the world and the country?
Samson, it's not just limited to the party. I think that as a country, we must be ashamed of ourselves when it comes to how we have performed in the area of women empowerment, especially in our politics. And just some few days ago, we're celebrating Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And the more you read the literature, the more you wonder which part of our life that Dr. Nkrumah didn't think of and didn't touch. For example, Ghana is celebrated as a beacon of democracy in Africa. Yet we are unable, unlike Rwanda and other countries, to come out with a clear policy on how we can ensure that more than half of our population also have key responsibilities in our governance system. I think it is almost a paradox that since 1959, and that's why I made reference to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, since 1959, when we first passed the Representation of the People Bill, that ensured that women had automatic representation in Parliament, we started sliding after the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I think the only time we had another conscious effort at integrating women in our governance structure was around the PNDC, when the 31st December Women Movement, championed by Nana Kuneda Ajman-Rawlings, actively brought women out of the kitchen and their homes to actively participate in local governance and even at the central level. Again, in 1998, Samson, we had the administrative directive by the president at the time. That was to ensure that we had 40% representation in government. It was not followed, yes, it was not followed. But again, it tells you that there was that mind to do that. And unfortunately, it didn't get implemented. Then in 2011, we had to look at that administrative directive to reform it into the affirmative action bill. I recall the work that Nana Oyelita and others did on this, on that bill, got it to cabinet, eventually got it to parliament. Unfortunately, the Safe Parliament could not pass, the affirmative action bill. And so it came as, some sort of encouragement to many women-based organizations when the president, in his first State of the Nation address, President Nana Akufo-Addo, in 2017, made the promise that he was going to get this affirmative action bill passed. That was going to ensure that about 40%, we had about 40% representation when it came to appointments. Unfortunately, it has not even since left cabinet in the last 5 years to make its way back to parliament. That again is a disappointment, I must say, to put it lightly. It's a huge disappointment. And if you have a president who, even if he has his hands tied by the arrangements that we have in place when it comes to how many women get into parliament, you do not expect that president to feel helpless when it comes to what he has control over, say the appointments that are made. For example, the government representation at the district assembly level, how many of them usually are women? Over the past years, Dr. Akwete says over 30 years, we have not really used that to empower women. And I agree with him on that score. Now, those are perhaps the soft issues that are within the control of any government or any president. And I will expect that even as we work at, changing the structures and the laws that will make it easier for us to integrate women in our governance system, some of these soft issues, like the appointments of the DCEs, one would have expected, for example, the president who has not been able to pass the affirmative action bill to use his appointing authority in the appointments of these DCEs. That's right. To make it, to make a point there.
That's an argument most of the advocate think. To
make a point there.
It's sound.
Exactly. Yeah. But you see, maybe moving forward, I will also suggest the results-based quota system. For example, where we have, in the case of Parliament, I know that after the census, for example, we are going to have, some new constituencies. There will be the contemplation of creating new constituencies. Right. Why don't we make that, an avenue where we can, for example, consider the best losers. Okay. Women who put up themselves and turn out to, garner more votes than any other.
Let's get to another thorny issue. And Dr. Drosai, once again, very limited time, but let's see what we can do. Dan Boche, the local government minister, has been saying some things about the Gwan district. He says that one has been created, the constituency, we have created the Gwan constituency. It has to be inaugurated. You just don't create an assembly, then starts functioning. There should be an inauguration of the assembly. That has to take place. We have to send furniture, do the installation. Some adjustments will have to be made and all that. As soon as that is done, the assembly will be inaugurated. I'm sure in a matter of weeks, the inauguration will be done. So presently, as we speak, there is no DCE for the area, and the district is made up of the Santrokofi, Akwafu, Lekwe, and the Lolobi, known as Sal, in the Oti region. So, who brought this problem upon the people and upon this country, that as we speak, they don't have a representation in parliament, and to get a DCE, that is also going to be another, issue.
Who brought the problem? To be difficult for me to point accusing fingers. What I can say is that we were not timeously as far as working on the salary is concerned, because the commission that made the recommendation for the creation of regions were very explicit in their report. And then also what I know is that once the Guan district is created by the airline, the composition must be clear. And the composition under Article 242 must include an MP. So definitely they need an MP for the assembly to be properly constituted. So I think we were all late in acting in the case of the Guan district and the Sal areas. That notwithstanding, I'm sure we've been able to put the pieces together. Now the LI has matured as far back as November 2020, and I'm very positive that, like the local government minister said, we'll be able to get back on track and get them to have their chief executive. And remember, once they have their chief executive, the common fund formula would have to be modified, because the assemblies will now be 261. So it also requires a lot of legislative reforms to be able to ensure that they will get what they need. What I would say is that
so clearly the duty bearers had no foresight, and that is why this problem has occasioned, where the people have been disadvantaged in such a way.
I think we were slow in acting, and this one cuts across Parliament, the executive, all institutions that were responsible, because an institution will have to bring an ally, an institution will have to initiate the process. So as far as governance is concerned, I may not put accusing fingers on one institution or the other, but those who were involved in the chain were slow in acting. But that notwithstanding, the gap can be filled. But let me also say that Samson, the assemblies have been functioning. I heard the Honorable Minister, Honorable Asumini, mentioning that assemblies have not been functioning. Something they've been functioning. A common fund is just about 40%, can finance about 40% of the assembly's budget. These things are supposed to be very, very innovative. And then also, let me ask the Honorable Member of Parliament the question. When in 2016, when the new local governance bill was introduced in Parliament, we attached a criteria for appointing MMDCEs, which could have resolved this issue of competency. That criteria was taken out of the bill. When the bill came out of Parliament and it was passed, the criteria was not there. Why did they do that? Because that would have resolved the issue of competence and all of that we are saving now. So I think that at certain times going forward, when certain things are brought to Parliament, we would then treat MPs to also help us in that regard, so that these issues can be resolved.
All right, Dr. Kwete, what do you say about this SAL situation and where they find themselves? Hello, Dr. Kwete. Please unmute your mic. Please.
Yeah, this is better. You hear me now?
That's right.
Okay. I'm using my phone now because the computer went off. Okay. Yes. So it's fine that we're making progress within the existing system, but I want to know, what kind of governance? Is there always an excuse of, oh, we're all responsible, it was late? The consequence of not giving them representation, of not processing their role in local government. In government business, timelines are important, deadlines are important, but here they seem not to carry any consequence if you fail to do that, and you can't hold anybody accountable.
Right.
But who are the more important, one point to make? I know your time is up.
That's right.
I just want to ask Honorable Sunyini, can you say that really in the appointment of MMDCEs since under the 1992 Constitution, his party hasn't been involved? Do they recruit people from within their parties?
Of course.
To be MMDC?
Of course, you can't deny that.
The parties are involved.
Right.
Okay. And what this method, this approach the president has taken, lays it bare. And it shows why this debate must be had. Are parties involved? And how do you take them out?
Okay, thank you so very much. I'm sorry, but time is run out on us. Time is run out on us. My guests have been Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Executive Director, Institute for Democratic Governance. Alasan Suni is MP, Tamale North and Member Appointment Committee. Dr. Eric Odrosai is a governance expert.
I
also heads an institution here in the country.
In 2015, I was not in Parliament, but Dr. Needs to understand that. Secondly, it's important for Dr. Emmanuel Akwete also notice the point that I made about the lack of transformation, because what I said was that I don't see any reform. So we are always doing much of the same thing.
841-988 at Juringano Gate. That's where you find Habel's Couture. They can give you the best of kaftans, and one like what I'm wearing, I think it looks it competes.
But you haven't.
It competes nicely with Suhini's own.
Nice for me.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. And Suhini, my apologies that time ran out on us. Thank you very much.